So the ladder of safety is this idea that we don't just move from being totally okay and engaged and connected with our world and other people, that our bodies are kind of moving up and down this ladder of biological, physiological, alchemical response to our world. Welcome to That's My Therapy. My name is Ali Belzer. I am a licensed professional counselor, a specialist in experiential education, and a clinical adventure therapist.
My name is Amanda Reedy, a licensed clinical social worker working as a mental health therapist. We believe therapy is a great tool for healing. However, we want to demystify what healing can look like, as in our experience, people care for themselves in creative, intuitive, and determined ways. Each episode, we will get curious about healing that is outside traditional talk therapy and deconstruct how healing can be a practice that is innate to who we are. Just as singing is to birds and making honey is to bees, it's just what we do. Let's get it.
Welcome to the Thunderdome. What's been your therapy lately?
Was I supposed to be prepared? My therapy lately has been getting delight out of the small ways I troll my children.
Gaslight your kids.
It's not gaslighting. It's just like, some things I find funny that are just for me that nobody cares about, but you have to say no so much as a parent, but you don't really want to say no all the time. And I can't keep explaining myself in a different way. My daughter likes to ask for things that I just don't have the ability to give her.
Right.
I'm just like, I'm not even holding the power. You know,
in order to provide.
Right, we went to the river, to the pond, and there's all these people like in kayaks or on paddleboards, and she's like, Mommy, I need a boat. I need a boat. Mom, I need a boat. She's like, she gets this like shaky, like, I need a boat.
Also, that is how she asks for things. I need a bite of that, and it's a question.
I need a bite.
Yeah. I need a bite.
I need a bite.
Yeah. Not can I have a bite?
No, I need a bite.
I need a bite.
Like, I need a boat. I'm like, I don't have a boat.
I don't have a boat.
We don't own boats. Okay.
No.
That, or just like, I need a fruit bar. I'm like, we don't have any fruit bars that I bought you one time a year ago for a road trip. But she has the memory of a steel trap. She'll be like, remember that one time I had a fruit bar 7 months ago? I want that right now. And I'm like, I don't buy those. Those aren't.
Yeah.
They're not in the house.
Imagine your 3-year-old having an insane capacity for long-term memory.
Yeah. It's really...
I don't get it.
I think she's going to be some kind of performer where she can memorize a ton of information and then sing all the lyrics and remember everything. And
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think she'll probably be like a Broadway star.
Whoa.
But anyways, so... one thing, I do like the Outlander quite a lot. It's my escapism.
Oh, yeah.
So just to segue a little bit.
Sure.
But in this Scottish accent, line from the show, he just goes, I kind of give you what I didn't have.
Hold on. Say it one more time and with passion here.
Okay. I canna give ya what I didn't have. Like CANNA and then DINNA. Canna dinna.
I cannot give you what I didn't have.
Yeah, I can't give you what I don't have is what we would say in English. Yeah. But rather than being annoyed that she's asking me so many times, and I've said, we don't have fruit bars I don't have any. And then she goes, but I need it. Like, she keeps selling her case, which is I need it. She doesn't offer any new information. Right. But I want it, but fruit bar. Yeah. I need it. And then I just default to, I kind of give you what I didn't have. And I just get a little tickle out of it.
That's tickling.
You know, and that's just an example of like, oh, let's be silly. So really my therapy is silliness.
Yeah.
It's that I'm close to my feelings. I'm close to the connection, and I'm engaging in a way that's like feels fun for me. Even in the times of like these are the moments of parenthood where I'm like I can't say I don't have this in another way. I don't have a boat. I don't have a fruit bar.
Yeah. No.
I don't have them.
I love it. So in a moment of true object scarcity,
Yeah.
you find abundance.
Yeah.
In your
some
ability to
silliness.
respond.
Yeah. So, and there are just things that you end up having to say over and over and over again. So it's really nice to have some phrases locked and loaded as a parent.
Yeah.
That way it's every time the same. And kids just consistency really works with kids.
Yeah, they're little freaks for it.
Yeah, their brain is just like, oh, fine, I'm going to test the boundary every single time. But then I just have these little phrases that I think are kind of silly.
Well, and it breaks up the monotony of you too. Like no's feel weighty on the parents too. Like that's
no.
Yes,
no. Yeah.
It's hard to say all the time. So find a little phrase.
Rather than like tell my kids to get out of a space. Because that's a really hard one. Like they'll all just like suddenly be in the bathroom and Stevie's turning on the water.
Yeah.
Milo's trying to dip his hands in the toilet and then like a raccoon suck the water off his hand. And he does it so fast. And it's like, it's so gross. Or they're like ripping the toilet paper and I'm just like, stop. Like, please. Okay, out of the bathroom. And they like, they're just like,
What's the phrase?
Oh, I just start beeping them and it something triggers in their brain that they go, oh, we're supposed to go. So I go, beep, 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 beep. And then my little son goes, beep, beep, beep. And he's so fun. And then I can scoop him out of the bathroom because it's right when I'm on the brink of snapping.
Collapse, yes.
Of just being like, get out of the bathroom.
Right.
But instead, I have some tools.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Let this be an invitation. Find the most whimsical way to say the thing you don't want to say.
Yeah, so beeping. Our kids need to take their shoes off and they have a little shoe basket by the door.
Yeah.
You know, they have very few responsibilities in life.
Yeah.
They are asked to take their shoes off and put them in the basket when they come through the door.
Seems reasonable.
You have to tell them every single time.
Of course.
And they'll want to immediately go start doing something else. So I also have a little song for that. So that helps because I want to be like, stop, get your shoes in the basket. You need to listen. I've tried going hard before and it's almost like, they're like, Mom, what are you trying to do? Like, oh my God.
It's laughable.
I tried to be like hard ass mom tonight, which I'm almost never. Look, I get my way. Let's be honest.
Sure.
As the parent, I do not bow down to my children, but I am almost never like
you're not hard ass.
I'm very rare. But I'm like, oh, this never works because they're just like, what are you even trying to do? This doesn't suit you.
Wow, no, thank you.
No, I'm not gonna do that.
So I hate it.
So it doesn't work to go like get your shoes and put them in the basket. It doesn't work at all. So instead, I mean, they're not allowed to go on to their next activity until it's done. So it's like, let's make it fun. And they just go, shoes in the basket, shoes in the basket, shoes in the basket, shoes in the basket, shoes in the basket. And then she's like, and then she puts the shoes in the baskets. The shoes in the basket song's a big one. Can I give you what I didn't have? Beep, 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 beep.
Wow. It really paints a picture. You've stated parenting before as being a form of long form improv.
Yeah.
And just leaning into that whimsy.
Yeah.
It's also making me think of oftentimes as an experiential therapist, like the point behind providing an experience in order to get in touch with one's lived experience or with their feelings. Mm-hmm. The idea is that is a safe backdoor entry into like understanding something deeper about yourself. Mm-hmm. If we were to simplify that and look at developmentally the way kids' brains work, we can almost never just enter the front door. Like the most logical sequence from A to B feels like a huge barrier with kids because an option being in front of them feels like all other options are gone. And they're really just disoriented and protective of like their ability to do what they want. And our job isn't to force the kid through the front door. It's to help them understand the benefit of being inside the structure. Right? So hold on. It's making sense in my brain.
Okay.
Of like, if it's a structure surrounding a thing that actually just needs to be done.
Yeah.
Or not be done.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot throw your fork at your father's head, and you need to put the shoes in the basket.
Yeah.
You being like, sit down, get your shoes in the basket now. That's like a hard knock on the front door. And if someone hard knocks on my front door, I'm like, I'm not fucking answering that. That's, whoa.
Yeah, okay.
That feels invasive.
Yeah.
But like, shoes in the basket, shoes in the basket. That feels like such a safe, fun back door. And then the kid benefits from being inside, if you will. Like, they benefit from like, I completed a task that I was supposed to. I'm the type of kid that puts away shoes at the door.
Yeah. I think the last part where they care,
that feels like a reach?
It feels like a reach for this stage of parent. They don't care about the shoes in the basket. I think they got to have fun.
There you go.
And I'm less tense about it. Right?
It's for you.
Also, Stevie doesn't stop asking for the boat or the fruit bar.
Right.
But it shifts my somatic experience versus the tension of, I cannot get these two kids out the door.
Right.
Or I cannot get them to like slow down and get their shoes in the basket. And I cannot answer for the 1,000th time. It just shifts my tension, which that's what it's about, right? That's what therapy is like, I often can't change my environment. So I need to change my relationship to it. So what helps us change, the relationship to the thing that's happening? And it's like, oh, when I have access to it and I can slip into some silliness, it just means I'm still saying over and over again, I don't have a fruit bar for you. But I think it's silly. And I'm asking again and again to put the shoes in the basket, but it's a little bit silly. So it takes the edge off the experience.
Yes.
That I will continue to have over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Because that's that's what therapy is. It's just like, you can't change the world, so you got to change
your relationship to
your relationship to your environment.
Show me the way you love the world and I will show you mine.
Book of Longings.
Book of Longings. So good.
What's your therapy been?
I think the past week or so, I've been really leaning into my bike is cool.
Okay. Say more.
It's like spring weather season. Well, not recently. It's actually been like fourth winter, which is annoying.
Yes, but we had a week of so much hope.
Yeah.
An abundance of springtime, of warmth, of sunshine, of anything is possible.
Yeah, there was just like a moment there where the weather got warmer. Me and my gaggle of gaunties, that's gay aunties, gaggle of gays, we brought all of our bikes out of the garage. We're doing tune-ups. We're switching tubes. We're cleaning up.
Yeah.
Oh, fine-tuned for bike season. And we're bike people of like, I don't love mountain biking. I think other bikers that I'm adjacent to love it. But I'm like a true just like bike commuter / like being on bikes is so great. And I got a new bike bag and someone gifted me another little bike bag. And I've recently gotten really into bike packing and I just switched all my work stuff into a pannier. A pannier is like or pannier. I don't know how people pronounce it.
Pannier.
Yeah. Well, anyway, a bike bag. It's a bag that goes on your bike. I love bikes and bags. Two great passions of mine.
Yeah, you got a lot of bags.
And I've just been zooming. Yeah, I've just like, it feels, it's just like those moments where you have a little treasure that you like really like about yourself. Or
like you
your
like
life.
that you're a bike person.
I like that I'm a bike person. I like that I can clock other bike people.
Yeah.
I like that like way more than double taking at like hot people. I'm just clocking bikes.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's a sick bike.
Mm.
And I like that I can look at a bike and be like, I would talk to that person. I just think they'd be fun.
Mm. I mean, it feels like the most uncomfortable thing. I just don't know why. It is one of those things where I don't understand why people like discomfort.
Right.
And then you're like choosing the most uncomfortable version of a bike to be cool. I don't like.
Yes.
I don't really get it. But you obviously are
Yeah.
zopping around town
Yes,
and
I go
feeling
so
great about it.
fast,
Right.
and I like feeling so fast, and I have a rule of just like when safe, like really zip around cities and like weave when you can and just like feel cool and fast.
Yeah.
And then the second you are near trees and alone on a road, downshift, baby. Go nice and slow.
Right.
But like I just like interacting with the world on a bike. I have a playlist called Night Biking. Like I just love it. So kind of retouching a little thing that ignites my spirit a little bit has felt chef's kiss.
Yeah. And when that's just like 10% easier because you need less layers, less preparation to leave the house because it's not so cold and you just get to enjoy it more.
Yeah.
That's so nice.
Yeah. I struggle biking in the winter, honestly, mainly because I have some sensory issues and like all the layers and like covering my face and then like thick jacket and my backpack of like I just get really claustrophobic.
Yeah.
And I actually feel pretty anxious, and I don't like feeling anxious on my bike. I love it.
Right.
So
yeah. I mean, it's very similar. I mean, my other therapy has been using nature as my co-parent.
Oh, hell yeah.
And this is what maybe this is a different episode, but I've been thinking a lot about, in the absence of a village, what is your village, right?
Look to the trees.
Yeah, it's just like, let's be co-regulating with nature. Let's be co-parenting with nature.
Yeah.
She does so much of my job for me.
Yeah. I think that's an entirely other episode, is just like using nature as your
co-everything.
Co-everything. And like including like developing your relationship to nature is one of the like fastest, surefire ways to introduce your system to secure attachment.
Wow, really?
I think so. Yeah. I would like to prepare a little bit more on that episode though, and not just jump into it today.
Yeah, I love the concept. Yeah, to pursue secure attachment.
Today, I would love to talk about the ladder of safety.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I'm going to be honest here. I think I saw something similar. Like, there's definitely something called the ladder of safety in this book, The Wisdom of Your Body by Dr. Hilary McBride.
North Star, guiding light, light of my life.
But I've just like communicated it to myself and clients enough at this point that like I think it's really evolved.
So let's just say this is your interpretation.
Yeah. So this is kind of my interpretation of it, / like kind of the way I've redefined things to navigate my world, and I've seen it be pretty useful in like helping clients, especially helping clients with trauma, to like navigate what safety actually means for them. Because there can be a lot of shame with feeling unsafe all the time, maybe despite the evidence around you. So the ladder of safety is this idea that we don't just move from being totally okay and engaged and connected with our world and other people to in crisis. Of that physiologically and kind of alchemically, there's other things happening that our bodies are kind of moving up and down this ladder of biological, physiological, alchemical response to our world. And I'll just really quickly go over each step. So I always call it a ladder, but I always draw a staircase. So interpret this how you will. But at the top rung, we have safety. And I do safety always in quotation marks. And the reason is that as safe as someone's intention is for interacting with someone, or as safe as a space is intended to be, it is only up to you and your body if you are safe. And I know, like, as a queer person navigating the world, and often as a woman navigating the world, there have been spaces or people that have voiced themselves as safe. And something pretty intuitive in my body says, nah, I don't think so.
And one important thing that I actually find relieving when I say to clients who are trying to extend compassion to the parts that feel afraid, but also can come, they're like, well, I'm giving it, like, I'm offering some affirmations that it's safe to do so. It's this. And sometimes I like to just remind people that I'm like, you know what? Safety not guaranteed. Safety not guaranteed. So rather than trying to convince yourself that it's safe, it's like, what if we acknowledge that that's never guaranteed, and you'll be there to hold the pain of something not being safe. Emotionally, physically, like if you experience rejection, where it's like, it's safe to experience rejection, or like, I'm safe enough to share this feeling because I won't experience rejection. And it's like, no, safety not guaranteed. That's how it's like, that's what vulnerability is. Vulnerability is exposing, right? There's a reason why we call it vulnerability. Raw, exposed, and open to attack is like the definition of vulnerability.
Right. So when we look at our parts that are really scared of being vulnerable and say, it's okay, it's safe, when this part probably has a really innate knowledge of how uncomfortable that will be, it's much, I think it's better to avoid ensuring safety and saying safety not guaranteed. And I will hold
and I'm
us.
Here.
Yeah, I will hold us and like trust our ability to recover.
Yeah.
And do and walk beyond it. Like,
it's and okay. It might hurt. It hurt.
It probably will actually. Yeah. So I like to reframe the top rung of the ladder for this exact reason, to, rather than safety, which people kind of associate with feelings such as comfort, connection. I like to say the very top rung of the ladder is categorized by connection and empowered choice. So connection being that you are, one, able and allowed to communicate your lived experience, and that has the potential to be met with empathy and attunement. That you can share what you are experiencing in this moment, and someone will say, yeah, that makes sense. Connection. That's what that is. Empowered choice is that we have the autonomy and the ability to move through our world in a way that feels meaningful to us. So we have choice, the ability to choose, the ability to move between options. Now, this is a much more broad definition of the top rung, right? Because theoretically, we can experience every emotion on the human spectrum at the level of connection and empowered choice. That you can be deeply grieving, deeply rageful, experiencing the most uncomfortable emotions, the most uncomfortable experiences, and have the potential to meet connection and empowered choice. So that is kind of the top rung. When we move one rung down, and I like to, as I go through the ladder, I like to explain it with a kind of a metaphor from nature. So I'm going to talk about the deer in the meadow. So the deer at the level of safety, of connection and empowered choice, like, it's just being a deer. It's kind of able to wander the meadow, feed, play with other deer, whatever. talk about daycare with the other deer, whatever. And then one rung below is vigilance. So this is when the deer hears that stick crack in the woods, just beyond their field of vision. You immediately see kind of an instant change in posturing and attentiveness of the deer. So we have this rigidity upward, and we have this kind of scanning mentality. You can kind of picture what this would look like in your own life and in your own body. When we have people who are living in vigilance for a very long time, this is where we see things like more chronic symptomology, if you will. I really wish people could see my quotation marks when I
can do
it.
I think they can. Yeah.
Symptomology of like just kind of like chronic general anxiety, irritability. This is just kind of living in kind of an edge, like life just feels pretty sharp. And this makes a lot of sense because if you're vigilant, suddenly you're so tuned into data surrounding you that it's really easy to get overstimulated because everything is turned up to volume 100. Vigilance. Everyone kind of picture what that can feel like. One step below, this is where the deer, upon hearing the crack of the stick, receives new evidence that there is danger. So they clock a scent, or they see movement, or anything else. This is called activation. This is one rung lower. And this is when physiologically, our bodies are absolutely flooded with cortisol and other hormones that really fuel our body with energy in order to fight or flee. And it's really a compassionate response by the body to say, I see it, it's go time. Yeah. Let's go. And obviously we're creatures as humans that have like evolved a little bit past this typical mammalian brain. So of course we see fight or flight, this activation response, in a lot more diverse, dynamic, and fluid ways than something is chasing me. And it can be really frustrating, but also enlightening to know that that is kind of what the body's response is. Yeah. One rung below activation, this is the last step on the ladder, is dissociation. And in the natural metaphor, this would be the deer didn't get away. It was caught. It was not able to use that energy to get away. And dissociation is the body's final and compassionate response that says, you don't actually have to be here for this part. You don't have to be here. So as I'm talking, I hope people can kind of feel out in their own systems what these levels have felt like. Activation, there's a fire in your system. And sometimes holding that and staying still and trying to argue, like it feels really impossible. It feels too fiery. And then dissociation, there can just be kind of like a chronic malaise or numbness, and not being in your body.
Either withdrawn or far away or... Yeah.
So I encourage people also to think about like, what does each level look like to you? Because there's kind of like general how we track the body's response to safety, and like how that manifests in our lives. Like, for example, if you were raised in a household where strong emotions were really punished, activation might manifest in a lot like different ways. So maybe you actually go into complete shutdown or stonewalling of like not being able to talk, but your heart rate is 140. Or some people are like throwing things and yelling and screaming. So like, know that you can hold each of these stages really differently depending on what your lived experience is. Some really bad or just like tough to swallow news about the ladder of safety. is that there is no elevator.
Mm.
And what I mean by that is we can't go from dissociation right back into connection and empowered choice.
Right.
That actually we have to move back up the ladder
Mm-hmm.
the same way we went down.
Mm-hmm.
And people can get really stuck moving toward safety, moving back toward connection, especially because coming out of dissociation feels awful. It can, or it can feel really uncomfortable to re-enter your system and immediately feel a lot of anxiety or like really powerful energy. So if maybe you can resonate with if a therapist or a mentor ever told you like what's happening for you right now, and maybe you've been in a little bit of like a fuzzy dissociated place for a while, that it can feel really overwhelming. I remember, I think it was a story you told once where you were like, you said to a client, can we sit with that for a second? And it was immediate shift of you're asking me to sit in a hurricane.
Yeah.
That's what coming out of dissociation can feel like. And like if we can tune into what our bodies actually need as we move up and down the ladder, it can make the process a lot less daunting.
Yeah.
So knowing that actually, like your system flooding with that discomfort, know that you are probably on your way back toward the top rung.
Yeah. The only way out is through, right?
Yes.
It's like we gotta go through it. I like the analogy about feelings are a tunnel, and a lot of times we get halfway through, panic, and then drag ourselves back the way we came.
Yeah.
And really what it means to move through your feelings is to finish the feeling, to get to the other side of it.
Yes.
So and you don't do that by thoughts, by the thought spiral. You don't keep feeding it a story. What you do is you turn purely to the somatic sensation of the feeling.
Yes.
So rather than saying like whatever is making you activated, I'm not safe, people don't like me, nobody likes me, see how she turned away at the party and she pretended not to see me and then no one's checking me. Like that's feeding the anxiety or the feeling. And then what happens if you're like, oh, I'm feeling this in my throat.
Yeah.
Be here. Move through it. And you let the body move all the way through the emotion. And this is where in theory, like if you really do that, that moves through you pretty quick.
If you let it.
If you really can say, I'm going through the tunnel versus, oh no, I'm starting to cry.
Yeah.
Oh no, I'm overwhelmed. Let me drag myself back to where I was before, which often would keep you in a state of disconnection, right?
Right.
Dissociation, something where that keeps you farther from where you really need to be. So it's like, what happens if we move through that? If you have to move all the way through dissociation to then what's waiting for you on the other side of dissociation, which might be
feels like fire.
The reason you started dissociating.
Yes. It can be really daunting to get to the other side. And I'm really glad you mentioned that it's somatic too, because I think it's just buzzy, like in pop psychology, we have so much language around kind of supporting oneself through emotions and like coping skills. And the ladder of safety has been really important to me in that when we are at the lower rungs of the ladder, we do not have access to coping skills, to self-compassion, to like meditation. Let me expand here. It's if you try to pop a mindfulness meditation in your earbuds while you're dissociated, and you hear just a breathy white woman telling you to focus on your breathing, gratitude. That language is hitting a brick wall. Or I would say more so than a wall, a complete void. of you do not have access to those tools right now.
Yeah.
Similarly to like, we can be totally activated and kind of have that feeling of what people call, I'm freaked out. Like I'm losing it. And imagine looking at someone who's losing it, totally freaked out, and telling them
to calm down.
Calm down. Oh. Or like, that doesn't really make sense though.
Oh, yeah.
Like, why can't you see that like this isn't related to that? You do not have access. You do not have access to the part of your brain that can think your way out of anything. Mainly because like beyond vigilance, like our frontal cortex, the part of our human brains that makes us like higher order mammals or whatever you want to call us, that has like abstract thinking and language and like filtered experience, that is off the second cortisol enters your system, the second you're in activation. So responding to that with like, it's okay, you're safe, that is not being heard. Doesn't mean it's not a bad thing to say, but it's not being heard. It's not reaching anything. So I like to say that there are kind of physiologically the things that generally we need to move from each step. So from dissociation back to activation. Going back to the deer metaphor, I don't know if you've ever seen these videos of like a wild animal being re-released after being tagged or like moved somewhere, and they like open the crate or like take the bag off, and then they just don't move. Like they're just frozen. Yeah. That would be kind of a dissociated freeze state. And actually what typically the scientists or research, whatever, have to like shake the animal or just kind of push on it a little bit. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I'm here again. And then they take off like straight into activation, right?
Right.
Run, use this energy. Of our bodies can use similar things that to come back into our body more than any kind of coping skill, we need safe sensation. So this can be like you or a trusted loved one providing pressure to your body. This can be taking, being in water that is either maybe a little cold or a little hot. This can look like holding an ice cube. Like it's pretty primal actually, like the way we meet ourselves when we're dissociated, it's like purely physical. Can I be a body? Can I be a body again?
Yeah. Have you ever had any prolonged dissociation?
I have in college. Yes. And my body, it's funny how your body can kind of like naturally find its way.
Yeah, dissociation is not catatonic.
No.
We're having a human experience, which is really interesting.
We can be totally functional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, I mean, tell your thing.
Oh, I think just in college, we're like, chunks of time were kind of like pretty blurry.
Yeah.
And there was just like a deep sense of nothingness.
Yeah.
And this is like, people will describe after like pretty long periods of depression of just like, whoa, I'm noticing the absence of everything more so than the presence of something.
That is the right description.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just noticing the absence of something that really should be here, right?
And it's scary to have it not there.
Yeah.
Some people would describe it as like the will to live, to care about anything, right? Like it can turn into that really language. Scary. It can be scary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had really for my first time, I call it chronic hypoarousal, which is like, I could tell I was outside of what we'd call my window of tolerance.
Yeah.
Because I had a very high risk pregnancy with twins, and I had the death of a twin in utero at 18 weeks. And that was like, I'm going to be cracked open by this. Mm-hmm. And there's not enough safety to hold it. And I have a very young toddler that needs me. And none of this was conscious, but it just was like, I can't feel anxious about this every day, and I can't feel grief about it every day. And it's like compassionately, my body was like, how about nothing? Yeah. And then people were like, how do you feel? And I'm like, probably something in me should feel sad right now. Yeah. And I honestly feel nothing. Yeah. I remember Googling the phrase, what are hobbies? Right. Like, I was really concerned at the fact that I had no hobbies. Yeah. And I was like, what? And I would Google what are hobbies, and then I would look at the list, and I would try to imagine myself doing the thing on the list. And as someone who's pretty in tune with what I might like and what I wouldn't like, I would look at it and really try to sense what that experience would be, and there would be zero reaction within. Right. Where I'm asking ridiculous questions. Remember, I would be like, should I get into mountain biking? And then you'd be like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Or I'd be like, Nick, could I do trail running? And he's like, no. What? No. Right. And I was like, right. I was like, so what are hobbies? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? Yeah. You know? But I was actually functioning really well, because I was like, what would a functioning person do? And I just had rules for myself that I followed. I'm like, we do 2 outings a day. I take my daughter out in the morning, and I take her out in the afternoon. Yeah. And we don't have to do anything, but like, we're leaving the house twice a day, you know? Yeah. Food was on the table. Everyone's needs was met. And I'm like, I'm like a shell of a person. And I'm recognizing the absence of everything. Yeah. Even the sadness, right? And it wasn't until like we were just sitting at a coffee shop, and you told a story about your experience of parallel grief, and I could feel the dissociation drop. Ooh, yes. And it was immediate, like so much. It was so much all at once. Right. Yeah. And I could feel it, like the imagery that came up in my body was a wall of ice and a crack down a giant ice cube that started to go like in Ice Age with the little squirrel. You know, like he sticks the nut in the ice. Yes. And then it was like panic, and you're like, are you okay? And I'm like, I mean, there's just like tears just streaming down my face. Yeah. And I was just like, I guess there's things here. Like, there's something here. Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's my invitation coming back in. But it also felt relieving. Of course. And then what I really needed was to ritualize my grief, honor it, have a place for it, have a memory for it. I needed to write some things down. I needed to do something as a family to like mark this really ambiguous loss. And even just acknowledging that that's what needed to happen, having something on the calendar, planning it, and then doing the ritual eventually, like that, it just like everything kind of rolls. Yeah. Yeah. Which I think that's really affirming of, we do have to come back up the same way we go down. Yeah. But it can be a much more fluid process. Yes. And it can be a much, like, the second you have access again to what is compelling. Yeah. Or hear in someone else's voice, oh, that's what I need. Like, as soon as the truth kind of reveals itself to you, gosh, your body is just like so naturally wants to return. Like, make that return to connection and empowered choice. It's the direction we want to go. Yeah. And it is fear, probably related to our past lived experiences about our feelings. Yeah. That maybe prevent us from having permission to go forward. Yeah. That is too scary. And that, like, coming out of dissociation into an intensity that was like unknown. It was unknown. Yeah. And it was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I get why this was. And it was like, oh, there I am too. Yes. I'm like, okay, this is a thing. I'm like, I think I'd prefer this. Yeah. And guess what? What I knew also was that I was getting better it was not that I had hobbies. It was the realization, like, Amanda, you've never had hobbies. Okay? You don't care about hobbies.
Right.
Okay? It's like, you don't have to have a hobby. We're so concerned that you needed a hobby because you have a lost feeling in your everyday life.
Yes.
But I was like, hobbies make people feel yet ? Google. You know, but I'm like, oh yeah, no, we've never had hobbies.
No.
Keep it moving.
Keep it moving. Well, and that's like, whether you kind of intentionally seek out moving up the ladder or not, like your body, it will get there, like on its own. Our bodies, by nature of being alive, are kind of moving toward healing in every given moment.
Yeah.
And
my body was waiting for an invitation. And it just said, this is the ice. It could crack. And even at that moment, I like felt a little bit of it, buttoned it back up, and then continued to explore that later.
Yes. That, like, we actually can move up and down with some boundaries too.
Yeah.
And say, whoa, that's a lot of activation right now. I actually need to make it through this conference. Dissociation and kind of like high functioning autopilot. Mm-hmm. Thank you for taking the wheel here.
Yeah.
And everything is an invitation later to come back and be like, okay, now can I move toward? Mm-hmm. Now can I move toward connection and empowered choice?
Yeah.
So some physiological things that are just tools, no exact right way to move up and down this ladder, right? Like what fits. May what needs to reach you with this. Mm-hmm. So theoretically, what our bodies physically need from dissociation to activation is safe sensation. Mm-hmm. The ability to, can I be a body? Can I be a body? Can I be a body? Mm-hmm. From activation into vigilance, this is the expenditure of held energy. Mm-hmm. So this can be mindful movement, or just intentional movement, really. Mm-hmm. And now I'm going to really emphasize here, when I say intentional movement, I do not mean going to the gym or like exercising or coming out with a workout plan. No, it is way more immediate and probably more feral than you imagine. Mm. And by that, I mean like thinking of the animal world, back to the deer metaphor. Deer came out of dissociation, took off, came to a place where it was out of the danger, but still had energy in its body. Every animal, higher order mammal in the animal kingdom we see does this, will shake, roll around, and like rub on different objects to expel unused energy. Mm-hmm. And it's actually only when animals are prevented from expelling held energy do we see animals have evidence of PTSD. Mm. It's when they have this traumatic experience being captured, did not get away, dissociation, and then lived, but could not move. That is when we see PTSD in dogs, like when we study it. Mm. Interesting, right? Like, so I cannot emphasize this enough that it's actually really normal to shake. I encourage it. And there can be kind of a fear around shaking of like, oh my gosh, this is like kind of an uncontrollable freaking movement that it can scare people, and they will actually cognitively shut it down, suppress it. Yeah. And be like, oh, stop shaking. Just take a breath. Yeah. When really you need to shake. And in my period of dissociation in college, these moments where I would just kind of like hover on the edge of activation and dissociation. And almost every day I would do that thing where you like are lying down and then you flip your legs over your head. Yeah. And it was just this motion of like, it was both deep sensation of like, this is weird and uncomfortable what my body is doing. Like I'm feeling that I have a body. Yeah. And I would just like roll around until I felt less hot. Like, and usually that like I could go to sleep again. And, but yeah, so expelling the energy is normal. And I have actually encouraged clients like who are really struggling, maybe in relationships, of getting really activated whenever there's a conflict, of like, do you have permission to like go and expel some energy? And like I've heard voiced fear of like, will that be seen as manipulative? Like that I'm like shaking, or I have to like leave and shake. And I'm like, be very clear with yourself and your partner that this is an act that's moving you toward connection and empowered choice.
Yeah.
And that actually this is me on the way to safety. So yeah, feeling out like what would actually feel good to you in the moment. Also, if you have a trusted person, like I'll tell my wife, like, hey, can you come bounce me like a basketball? And I just lie in bed and she takes my shoulders and just like, and it's just like deep sensation movement. Like I get energy out.
Which is funny because that comes from Nick.
It does come from Nick.
Yeah.
Where he did that without my permission once. And then I said, don't bounce me like a basketball. And then I went home and I was like, I want to be bounced like a basketball.
That's how it happened?
I think so.
You're on the couch and you're sad or something. I can't remember what was going on. And he just said, well, would you like me to bounce you like a basketball? And you're like, I don't know what that means.
That's so funny.
And then you're like, and he goes, and I think you went like, I didn't like it. I didn't love it. But I like to hear that it sticks.
I know it totally sticks. And I was actually,
just to quote like Sex and the City, I just miss the weight of a man on top of me. I don't want to have sex. I just need the weight of a man. So sometimes I will say that to my husband. I'm like, I need the weight of a man on top of me.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And then finally, from vigilance back into safety, connection, and empowered choice.
Yeah.
That is where we have self-compassion.
Yeah.
That is where we see genuinely noticing how we feel, maybe exploring what we need, and offering ourselves compassion.
Yeah. Right. Try and ask your dissociation what it needs.
What do you need right now?
What are needs? I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm an 8,000-year-old black hole. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I'm like
I'm the void. I'm the void.
Yeah.
I don't answer questions.
Right.
Yeah. And activation, if you're like, hey, you're safe. What do you need right now? It just goes, for things to be better.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have access.
Yeah.
So note that these techniques, you are not failing at them. You just probably need something else first.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more primitive than you think.
Sure. Humming, rocking, singing.
Yep. Also,
all somatic releases. Crying, yawning, all somatic releases.
Rhythmic and repetitive motions. Beep, 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 beep. And repetitive noises.
Really?
Clicks.
Maybe that's what clicks something in my kids' brains. Their eyes are blank,
Yeah.
They're just little chaos monkeys,
beep,
and they're just
beep, beep.
and like
that's why often
I was like, are you even here right now? And then I just go beep, 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 and they're like, yes,
whoa.
master.
Well, that's so funny. I mean, drawing from like Waldorf education for a second.
Oh.
Like
hit me.
Kindergarten and first grade, you sing everything you say.
Everything is a song.
Like they just don't. It's just it's just like what they're primed to hear, or that form of language. It's just an easier entry point.
Yeah.
So offering that to yourself, you can look up these things called polyvagal resets, which is basically just like kind of putting your body in weird positions where you kind of cross laterally. And it can honestly be like a hard reset for the body.
Yeah.
And I know it's kind of tough to think of ourselves as like just big deer. And like at the lower rungs of the ladder, we kind of are.
Yeah.
The ladder of safety has been huge in the way I approach trauma work. as like trauma can really mess with people's ability to move up and down the ladder. Oftentimes people that have experienced like chronic stress or a moment of severe violence, like feel totally stuck in one portion of the ladder and like feeling totally alone and helpless that they don't have access to this. So, or access to like the past version of themselves.
Yeah.
So know that like this is happening on a level that is like deeper than what you think. Deeper than any kind of rationality, reasoning, or cognitive processing. And it's helped me in everyday life being a little bit more gracious with myself. Of sometimes I'm like, gosh, why am I so irritable today? And honestly, like my body's uncomfortable. My clothes have been uncomfortable all day. Like this model has helped me tune in to just that I am a body.
Yeah.
And I have needs as a body just as much as I have needs cognitively, emotionally,
right,
etc. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to run away from your family. You just need to turn the overhead fan off after you finish cooking.
Goddamn. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I could be here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, with that.
Beginnings and endings are tough. Yeah. Thanks so much for listening. Maybe use this as an opportunity of where have you been hovering in the ladder of safety? And can you offer yourself like any act of compassion in this moment that would actually align with how your body's feeling right now? And
as always, stay close.
Stay close. Thanks so much for listening to That's My Therapy. As a general disclaimer, the topics discussed in this podcast are just one unique perspective, not prescriptive mental health advice. May you find healing where it finds you. If you are feeling suicidal or in need of immediate help, you can reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline by dialing 988. And do you want to hear the part of me that just was like, she's gonna leave me? I'm not cool enough. I don't know how. I look so uncomfortable in a. It's not.
Okay,
you have other strengths.
Let's also talk about how I was gonna ride your bike to my office, like a quarter block from Dreamfort, or a quarter mile from Dreamfort, and I get on it and I can't ride it at all, and I didn't know how to brake, and I just toppled to the ground.
Right over.
I just tipped like boop boop like I don't even know. Children can ride bikes.